Welcome, everyone. We are so glad that you've joined us, and thanks to all of you that are putting your name and your denomination, and if possible, your congregation or any organization that you're involved in, into the chat box on the right. It's really wonderful. Some of you we know in person, and some of you we are looking forward to building a relationship with, and we're really, really pleased that you're here with us today. We're going to start with some introductions. And as I mentioned before, we're going to keep your videos off and your microphones muted throughout the presentation, but Sarah will explain how we can participate with questions throughout the presentation using the chat feature. So I am Susanna Tuttle. I am really honored to direct the Interfaith Power and Light program here in North Carolina as a staff member of the North Carolina Council of Churches. You'll see under my bio there on the screen that I also participate in a lot of other organizations working on climate change. And my favorite part about working for NCIPL is being able to address the causes and consequences of climate change as a moral imperative through hope-filled positive solutions. So that's what we're here to talk about today. You'll hear more from me in a bit, but I'm going to hand it over to Sarah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah Ogletree, and I am the program coordinator here with North Carolina Interfaith Power and Light. I am the point of contact for congregations statewide through our NCIPL network, so I look forward to getting to know you all and build a sustainable and compassionate and just world together. For the purpose of this webinar, my role will be managing our chat box. So again, what Susanna said, if you hover at
I'm not sure if it's just on my end, but I am not hearing Sarah. There she is. Great. Sorry about that. For a moment, I just couldn't hear you. So you're back on.
Okay. Well, so what I was saying is that I will be managing the chat box, looking for questions. So when you ask questions, I will notice those and I will flag Ron or Susanna down to answer those questions. And we'll either do that throughout the presentation or at the end, depending on what feels most natural and most helpful to you all. Again, I'm the program coordinator and the point of contact for congregations within NCIPL, and I look forward to getting to know you all.
Hey everybody, it's Ron DeFelice. I'm a founder of Greenhound Energy. Happy to be here today. Thanks to Sarah and Susanna for setting this up. We're excited to launch with NCIPL, and what we're going to go over today is kind of give you a quick overview of what we're up to. My background, it's been a long winding road, but I've been in clean energy for about 18 years now, and have a consulting firm in Chapel Hill. And we've been doing that for about 6 years. And through that experience, we noticed that there was an issue in the marketplace in terms of getting green solutions out into the commercial market. And from that experience was born Greenhound. We're basically a matchmaking service. We're trying to reduce the friction between vendors that can provide renewable energy solutions to those who need it most and who want it. And the small and medium-sized business market, as well as the church and school markets, are very underserved. And so our whole mission is to reduce friction for those markets and get more green solutions out into the marketplace where they can do some good. So happy to be here, and I look forward to having your questions after we go through this. See if I can advance here.
Thanks, Ron. And we are really happy to be able to partner with Greenhound on this really exciting new online platform that you're all going to learn about today. I got to meet Ron at a Carolina's Climate Resilience Conference, and I was really impressed. So this is the first of what I hope to be many partnership opportunities. So why solar for congregations? I think you all are aware, which is why you joined our webinar today. But I'm going to share with you something that I have written that I've been sharing across the state and across the nation about why it's so important. People of faith have always embraced our cathedrals, churches, mosques, synagogues, and temples as sacred. In the best of scenarios, houses of worship hold the community together and serve as a central focus for community life. Symbolically and in reality, people of faith strive for our sacred spaces to be the center of good works and community service. In today's frenetic, business-oriented, oh, I just heard that we lost my video, so hopefully I am back on. If someone could let me know, I'm back, great. Sorry about that. This will be interesting as far as the recording is concerned, but I'm glad I'm back. So I can move forward with my overview. In today's frenetic, business-oriented, electronic world of sometimes which works and sometimes doesn't, our houses of worship continue to be places of retreat where the faithful come for worship, study, fellowship, and community engagement. As people of faith, we have become more deeply engaged in environmental stewardship, and we now recognize that rapidly accelerating climate change is one of the greatest challenges that civilization has ever faced. Putting together faith and the scientific reality of climate change, congregations are taking action, like all of you on this webinar today. Some are doing energy audits and making steps to reduce energy use. Some are designing new buildings and additions that are highly energy efficient. And some are making the transition to clean, renewable energy generated from the sun. And that's what we're here to discuss today. Seeing solar panels on a house of worship becomes an iconic marker to the broader community, a demonstration of the congregation's love of creation and this great spirit, and it shows a commitment to change our relationship to energy. So that's what I always say, is that when we introduce ourselves as Interfaith Power and Light across the country, no, we're not a utility company, obviously, but we are really motivated by connecting to the power and light within us and our relationship to power and light. So next slide, Ron, we're going to talk about what's been happening around the state. Here is an example of a really exciting map and a partnership that we have with North Carolina Sustainable Energy Association. Some of you know it as NCIPL. And they made us this map. This map came out this past early summer, and that we are working together to make sure that we know where congregations around the state are installing solar. So this is not up to date as of October 2019, but this is what the landscape looked like earlier this year. And the 4 churches that you see here on the lower part of the screen, we are working, Sarah, as the new program coordinator for NCIPL, is going to be reaching out to each congregation, and this is just an example of 4 congregations that installed solar, so that we can hyperlink this map so that any of you could click on one of the dots and learn the story of how the congregation went through the process of installing solar. And you're going to hear a little bit more today from Ron about some programs that are made available as part of legislation that was passed a couple of years ago, and why it's so important within the next really 2 years that congregations take action and move forward through the process of installing solar, because these programs and rebates and leases are made available just for a limited amount of time. And NCIPL was at the table, both with the legislators and working with Duke Energy, to make sure that we had a premium product for congregations as nonprofits, because as you know, we're not eligible for the tax incentives at the federal level. And so instead, we wanted to make you all have the best opportunity for the most savings as we move to clean, renewable energy as a moral imperative. So I'm going to turn it back over to Ron, and I look forward to learning your questions as we go through. Remember to use the chat box on the side, and Sarah will be helping us navigate that. Thanks.
Thanks, Susanna. Just want to make sure you all can hear me. Can you hear me, Susanna?
Yes, I can. And I know for Sarah, I was coming in and out. So if folks want to type in the chat box, if you do lose our audio, we will work hard to make that work as long as we possibly can in a technical way.
Okay, thanks. So that was a great overview. And so the partnership between us and Interfaith Power and Light stems from the fact that what they've done is tremendous, but how do you scale that? There's so many congregations across North Carolina that could benefit from solar today. But just Susanna and her team just don't have the bandwidth, I think, to cater to every one of those. And so this is why Greenhound is really a good fit for this group. So what do you need to scale? And what hole does Greenhound fill? So a trusted third party that is independent of vendors. So you can take the approach where you go and collect 5 or 10 different quotes from different vendors, but we're just going to focus on solar now. If you're not in the energy markets, it can be really overwhelming trying to decipher quotes from different companies because nobody really uses a standard format. And so trying to get an apples to apples comparison is difficult. And then you wonder, can I trust this vendor? What's their experience level? And is this really the partner I want to have going forward? Because it is a partnership for solar in particular. It's typically a 25-year project. And so this is a big investment and it's a long-term relationship. So Greenhound fills that role. We vet every vendor that's going to be on the platform proposing to projects. And so we kind of check that box and do the legwork for you. We also provide group education sessions on the energy solutions that we provide on our platform. And this is a great example where we'll just take you through how it will work if you want to install rooftop solar. And the process is really easy. So think like what TurboTax did for the tax preparation market. So it allowed a lot of people that weren't comfortable doing their own taxes to do their own taxes just kind of by asking the right questions through the software. And so we've harnessed that and trying to make it really painless for non-experts to get proposals in that make sense for them. And then an easy way to compare the options for quicker decision making. So we're trying to streamline the process. It shouldn't have to take 6 months to a year to make a decision about putting solar up because there's never been a better time. And as we'll see, there is some urgency over the next couple of years. So what we provide as an output once we get proposals in from vendors is standardized quotes for people to make decisions on. So you'll have an apples to apples comparison and you'll be able to understand the differences between the proposals that you get. And then finally, we are working hard to provide financing options to limit upfront costs. So there is a leasing program available now in North Carolina, and there are, I believe, today 4 different vendors that can provide leasing. You have to register with the North Carolina Utilities Commission to be able to do that. And so there are groups that are offering that, and I expect that there'll be more and more offering leases in the years to come. And so if you want to limit your upfront costs, that's a great way to go. And so we're trying hard to have those groups on our platform, and then also put our customers in touch with financial vendors that can do straight financing. So like a bank loan for your project if you don't want to go the leasing route. So those are all the things that we're doing through the platform, which I'm going to walk through in a few minutes here. And I'm happy to take questions now or at the end. So just chat in the box if you have a question or raise your hand and Sarah will let me know. And so I've gone over, I think, high level what we do and why we do it, but this is just kind of another nice overview of what we're doing. We're serving segments, small, medium-sized businesses and organizations like churches and schools that want green energy solutions. And we're connecting them with vetted vendors that provide those solutions and also the financing for those solutions. And so one of the things that we're doing is asking more open-ended questions from the vendors. So their proposals, they can get as creative as they want. If they have an idea based on your building and how it uses electricity, that will ultimately save you money and differentiate their proposal. So we put your project up, and then we ask for their proposals, and they have some legroom to propose whatever makes the most sense. And so that has benefits to the customer. So you get a wider variety of quotes, and it's not going to be just differentiated by price. You're going to have different value propositions with each proposal. And this is where the market's going, using real utility data and tariffs to inform the solutions. So just by having your address and who your utility provider is, a vendor can take that address and basically scope out your roof on Google Maps and figure out how much solar you can put on your roof. And then they can also look at the tariff that you're probably under right now. We're asking for one utility bill, at least one utility bill, to be uploaded. And so that's another way that the vendor can look at what you're paying for electricity now, what tariff you're under. They can also go and look and see what alternative tariffs there might be that if you switch to solar, you might benefit from. So that's another differentiator for us. And then the quick turnaround, trying to get this process streamlined. As I said, we've talked to a lot of vendors. They kind of acknowledge they don't need weeks to pull a proposal together. The more sophisticated vendors have a pretty good process down. And so once they get the project information, in most cases, they can prepare a proposal in under 7 days without a site visit. We do ask them if they would require a site visit with their proposal. And we also give them the leeway to say, we also give them the opportunity to say, okay, this quote is good for plus or minus 10% or plus or minus 15% or plus or minus 20%. Looks like we have a question. What is the tariff in this context? So the tariff is basically the way that you get billed from, let's just say Duke Energy is your provider. Say it's Duke Energy Progress. They offer, based on your size and the type of organization you are, basically a way that you are billed for your electricity. And so there are residential tariffs, and you can choose between, on the residential side, in many cases, you can choose between just kind of paying a flat rate for your energy, so cents per kilowatt hour, or you can go on a time of use tariff, which allows you to manage your energy use during peak periods. So you'll pay more for power during peak periods and less during off-peak periods. So that's a good tariff if you have solar and storage solutions, and it can allow some customers to save money. So that's an example of two different tariffs on the residential side. And then there are different commercial tariffs depending on your energy usage and size. And then there's also for organizations like churches, there oftentimes be a separate tariff for that. But in some cases, you can change tariffs. You can decide what tariff you're going to be on, and depending on the solution you install at your facility, you may want to be on one tariff versus another. I have another question here. How are we funded? We are self-funded. So as I mentioned, we have a consulting firm in town, and this project, it started as a project, as a labor of love, and then we spun it out, but the founders are basically funding this out of pocket. Good questions, and let me know if you have any others. And so the tailwinds that make Greenhound valuable and necessary, there's just huge interest in green solutions, and this segment of the market is very hard to get to for solution providers because it's very fragmented and they have a very high customer acquisition cost. And part of that stems from a lot of the decision makers, they're not experts. And so it's easier to delay a decision rather than make a decision when you're getting a lot of information on a topic you don't necessarily know a lot about. So we're trying to fix that. The falling cost of renewable energy solutions, you'll see solar dropping tremendously. It's going to continue. The pricing has never been better than it is today, and we expect this to continue. And the ability to quote projects remotely is also something that's fairly new. So with sophisticated software, the vendors can, like I said, look at a Google map picture of your facility and use your address and pretty much figure out what makes sense for your size building. So for all these reasons, this makes a ton of sense right now. And then on top of that, for this group, in North Carolina in particular, the rebates that are available make this especially attractive to, in this case, put solar on your facility. So here's a schematic of what we're doing. So we're connecting on the left-hand side here, small and medium-sized organizations who want these solutions with, on the right-hand side, the solution providers and the finance providers. And so where we sit in the middle. So the small, medium-sized business or the church will put up the information on our platform. It goes up onto the platform as a project. The vendors that we have a relationship with will get a note that there's a project that might interest them up on the platform. And they have a decision to make. Once they see that project, they can quote or not quote. And then if they do decide to quote, they have to upload their proposal within 7 days. Once they do that, their proposal goes back up onto the platform. The customer is notified you have a proposal, and they can, it'll go in their inbox. They click through it and they can see the proposal from the vendor. And then at that point, there's no obligation to do a project, or you can do a project or not do a project. Basically it's up to the customer how they want to proceed. And we have this firewall between, the customer and the vendors, in that if they like a proposal and want to move forward with a vendor, and they don't have to have necessarily made a decision yet, but they can click through and say, yes, I'd like this vendor to contact me about this proposal. And at that point, the match is made and Greenhound steps out of it. And so once a project gets built, that'll be between the customer and the vendor at that point. So we're a matchmaker. We're providing a service to make it easy to decipher different proposals. And on the vendor side, we're adding a lot of value. Like I said, the customer acquisition costs are high for this segment of the market. So that's the overview. I'll pause for questions, and while I get the web page up here, and I'm just going to walk you through how to sign up for Greenhound to kind of show you how easy it is to put a project up. Do I have any other questions? A question, yeah. How does a vendor get qualified? So they have to register on our platform. So there's a vendor registration portal. And basically, once they do that, we ask for a lot of information on their company, how long they've been in business, what kind of customers they've served, things like that. And they have to basically pick a time to have a call with me or my partner. And so we're trying to develop kind of longer term relationships with the vendors we're working with, and make sure that we know everybody that's submitting proposals on the platform as a measure of security for all the customers. Yeah, I got another question here. Will you keep track of customer satisfaction for those vendors after the projects? And the answer is yes. We haven't built that part out yet, but eventually you could see with the proposal that you get, you would see, like if we used a star system, you'd see, okay, this vendor has done X number of projects and they are rated 4.5 stars out of 5 by these customers. And it'd be very much like you're used to seeing on like an Amazon review. And so I did want to mention that this is not just for solar, and yeah, so getting a question here too. So it's similar process for building HVAC, and we're also providing matchmaking for solar plus storage, LEDs, and EV charging. Microgrid's a little further down the road, that is more customized. It takes a little more effort to make a match on that front. And then these are the different types of buildings that we're focused on. But the process is pretty much the same. We've got very customized questions that we ask for each of these solutions. So if you're interested in these, we'll ask on the customer side why you're interested in these solutions, and we'll ask questions about the building that'll tell us a lot, and then we'll kick that over to the vendor side for them to look at, and then they can provide the solutions. Yes, and so all the proposals, they follow the same format. So you'll get, and we're trying to make it simple as possible. So it's not like a 20-page proposal. You'll get a 3-page proposal from each vendor, and everything will be in the same spot for each of those proposals. So you can flip through and pretty easily understand who's proposing what's it going to cost you, how much you're going to save, what's your CO2 impact, things like that. Got a question on geothermal HVAC quotes. That is something that we're going to be doing. We don't have a rich or deep bench of vendors for that yet, but that is certainly where all this is going, and would love to make matches happen on geothermal as well. Well, before I go, I think I was going to do this after, but I might as well do it now just to kind of get people excited, I guess, and kind of tell you about the urgency and why there is urgency. If you're looking at doing solar on your roof, why now? And so House Bill 589 had some solar rebates for residential, commercial, and nonprofit. And as Susanna said, they did a great job of getting a very nice rebate for solar for nonprofits. It's the richest rebate that Duke offers. It's basically 75 cents a watt. And so up to 100 kilowatts per project, you can get a rebate of $75,000. And so what you're looking at here is, I just went to the Duke Energy Carolinas webpage where they basically track the projects and what's been happening with the rebates. And so you can see customer type, it's a nonprofit. They have carved out about 2.5 megawatts per year, and they can roll those over year to year. The nonprofit rebates have been underutilized. And so you can see at the beginning of 2019, they had about 3.8 megawatts available. This is the number of rebates that were accepted. And here are the number of applications that were received. And the applications accepted and connected is right here. So it's about half a megawatt. And then applications accepted, not connected, is about a megawatt. So if you look at this year, there's 1.8 megawatts AC of solar and rebates available. If you do the math, it's about 1.4 million in rebates that's available, which seems like a lot. But if the word gets out and people understand that there's a limited time for this, it's really only 19 projects for this year. So that's if we assume like the max size for each project. Of course, there'll be some projects that are lower than 100. They won't take the full 75K rebate, but just trying to project what does this mean in terms of projects. If you do the math on what's left for the rebate, it's about 19 projects if we assume 100 kW projects, and it's first come, first serve. Like I said, nonprofits are the only segment of the rebates that's been underutilized. The commercial rebates and the residential, they go pretty fast once they open it up for the year. And so those are already allocated for 2019.
Ron, can I jump in here for just 1 second to just give some examples of some of the sized projects?
Certainly.
Congregations. So I mentioned, you remember that map that we had above, and I have the full information in front of me. So some examples are Hominy Baptist Church installed 134 kilowatt system. So that was over, the 100 kilowatts. United Church of Chapel Hill installed an 84.7 kilowatt system. Highland United Methodist Church has a 48.7 kilowatt system. First United Methodist Church in Stanley, North Carolina has just a 5.3 kilowatt system, but we're so excited because it also has an electric vehicle charging station, which is really neat. The UU Fellowship of Winston-Salem has a 32 kilowatt system. Kalela Synagogue is a 46.8 kilowatt system. Haywood Street Congregation, 18.4 kilowatts. First Congregational United Church of Christ in Hendersonville is a 16.8 kilowatt. West Raleigh Presbyterian Church, where North Carolina Council of Churches offices are located, is a 15.5 kilowatt system. Binkley Baptist, a recent install, is 11.3 kilowatts. Good Shepherd United Church of Christ is 5.6 kilowatts. And Myers Park Baptist Church, which I believe was the first church to install solar in North Carolina, is a 4.8 kilowatt system. So it really is all over the map, locations as well as size. And we feel, again, at NCIPL that even if you just put one panel up, it is worth it to go through this process. And I know that the solar installers on this webinar can help you understand what makes most sense for your facility. So just wanted to share that during this process.
And
Thank you, Susanna.
Yeah, also there's a question, will the rebates continue into 2020?
They do indeed.
Yes.
And they will roll over. If this 1.37 million is not used up by the end of the year, it'll roll into next year and be available for next year. But there's a hard stop on the program. I believe it's 2022. And then after that, the rebates go away. If there's anything unused, it'll just go away.
That's right. And I'll just put another plug in for NCIPL's annual Faith Voices for Clean Energy Advocacy Day at the North Carolina General Assembly. We definitely want to be able to continue this program. And we want to, yes, somebody just said, Sabrina actually on the chat bot, let's not let these rebates go away. One of the ways that we can make sure that they continue is that we use them, and the nonprofit sector really needs to step up and take advantage of these. And I hope that it's the congregational community as the nonprofits that really access these rebates. So thanks for that.
Great. I'm going to go to one more slide, and then we'll just take a tour of the platform real quick. So we pulled together, we also do projects, larger scale projects, solar plus storage projects. And so my partner is really good at modeling project economics. And so we did a generic solar project here that's 100 kW in size, just to give people on the phone an idea of the cost and what we're looking at and what they can actually save over time. And so this is really high level. But if you're looking at a 25-year system, and that's the typical life of a solar system, and you assume that you're going to get the full rebate, and this installed cost per watt number will probably go down next year. But if we just assume it's $1.95 per watt, the total system cost is $195K. You have to do a capacity factor for the solar facility to figure out what your annual output would be. And then this number, this 9.8 cents per kilowatt hour, that's straight off your tariff. So what is the congregation paying for energy? That's where you would put your rate here. There's going to be an energy cost growth rate. Prices are going up, not going down. There's an operations and maintenance part, insurance, have to assume a degradation rate of the panels, which is industry standard, about 0.5% a year. There's an expense escalator here, and you have to have an annual inverter reserve to replace the inverters periodically throughout the lifetime. So you do all that, and how it shakes out for a 25-year project with these assumptions, congregation can save over that 25 years almost $110,000, and the average annual savings work out to be about $4.4 thousand a year. And so that's I think that's pretty compelling. And so if you're inclined to do solar and you thought it was going to be costing you more, don't walk away from this with that understanding, because actually depending on the facility, your cost for electricity can go down. And with the leasing program, if you're able to get a lease, you would not have to pay anything up front. And so these numbers are predicated on that rebate. That's a nice rebate, but that's not always going to be there. And so the economics, of course, will get worse once the rebates are either used up or go away. So with that said, I'm going to go over here. This is the splash page to the Greenhound website. It's greenhoundenergy.com. And then I'm just going to show you all how to sign up and say you're looking for energy solutions for my organization. Let me zoom in here. I don't have an account. Let's assume I don't have an account. And I'm going to sign up as Sarah Ogletree, NCIPL. Just trying to show you how easy it is to set up. And it's programs.
Also, feel free to email me.
Yeah, now everyone has your email. I certify I'm the representative or owner of the property, and you sign in. It says, great, your account has been created, and you'll get an email. And it says, this is the basic information you're going to need to fill this out. You can fill it out now. You can fill it out later. Let's fill it out now. Complete now for full access. So you get to this page, and this is just your basic information that I just entered that you can edit there. Go to this tab, and it'll ask about organizational information. So I have to edit, and I'm just going to put in some fields. Let's do the botanical gardens at UNC. So you type in an address, it'll find your address. 919. We'll just put in some numbers here. Save changes, and let's see, did I forget something? No, it says good. So we got that information all set, and then if you want to add a building, it says add building. Botanical gardens. And so it's the same address I just put in. And this address will be helpful for the vendors. They can look you up and figure out where you are and what the roof looks like. So then this field is basically asking, you know, what is the facility used for? Education and church, how many hours a day? Let's just say it's open 15 hours a day. It's 5,000 square feet. It's a pretty new building. Put in 3 stories. Does the building have LED? Type of water heating, I don't know. Some of this stuff is in case you're interested in some of those other things that we mentioned, like LED or HVAC, type of heating. BAS or BMS, it's building automation system or building management system. So if somebody doesn't know what that is, they'll just say unknown. But some of the larger buildings will have that to help manage electricity. Other major uses of electricity on site, just so there are no surprises. And we'll just say no here. And then you put in your utility provider. And then you got to upload a bill. And let's see. Upload the bill that I have, a sample Duke Energy bill, save changes. And you have completed your profile. Great, now you can do a project. So your profile's up and knows what building you're in. You start this, it says select a building. So this is what I just put in there. I probably spelled botanical wrong. Pretty sure I did, sorry about that. What best describes the goal for this project? So going green and saving money. Let's check those. I'm interested in, let's just stick to solar right now. I'm interested in, this is if you had selected multiple ones. Are you interested in just quotes that meet all your needs or any of the needs? We'll say any. Are you looking for financing options? I am. My priority is to limit upfront costs. The choices are limit upfront costs or capture maximum savings. My ownership preference is owner lease. I'll just say I have no preference. Does your building have space for solar panels? We think our roof is good. We can also say we have acreage if you have a lot of property, and you can say maybe you can consider ground mounted solar. So you have 3 acres. It'd be interesting for a vendor to know. And you can also put additional project details here about your building, anything special. And then this is we're trying to keep the site, clean and not just have tire kickers come. So we have this little gate here, which is basically a small application fee to make sure we get real projects up. Let's see. Just do this, pay and submit, and your project is up. So your project's been created. Your project will be open for 7 days for solution providers to submit quotes. After those 7 days, you have 7 days to respond to the quotes you're interested in. So other than that application fee, which I'm not sure what it's going to be, but it's basically to make sure that people are serious when they're putting projects up here. But other than that, there's no obligation to proceed with a project. So it's pretty low risk to put a project up here. And so here's the project that you just put up, and this is your dashboard. So next time you log in, you'll see this here. If you get quotes coming in, it'll show up here under active quotes. And then if you're interested in a quote, you will have marked that you're interested in a quote, and those will show up here. And because we have more than just solar here, you may end up putting more than one project up on the site. So you could have a project finished here, and that would be listed there. So if I wanted to go see this project and the information I entered, this is where it would be, and back to my dashboard. And then on the vendor side, let's see if this project showed up. So I'm also logged in as a vendor, and these are the projects. The vendor has a similar dashboard so they can see their projects, and these are their matching projects. So when they sign up, they basically check boxes as to what they're interested in. Are they interested in solar and storage, or just solar? Are they an HVAC provider? And that's how we make the matches. And it'll show them available jobs, and they'll have a main dashboard here. Available jobs, active quotes that they've submitted. They've gotten one customer that's interested in their quote, and this would represent a current job that they have. And let's see if I refresh this, if the botanical gardens will show up. Let's see. Nomad active projects, that's draft. Oh, there it is. Okay, so this is the project I just put up. And you can see it's solar only here. I've got 7 days to quote it. And then it'll ask me, it'll show the information for the project. And then I will have the ability to quote this as a vendor. So I'm going to open it up for questions because I see that we've got about 13 minutes left, and happy to answer any questions. And Susanna, did you want to say a few more words? I'm going to put the presentation back up. We might have one more slide.
Yeah, thank you. And we are here, part of our role as NCIPL is to help walk you through this. I know just by watching that demonstration, there's some questions that are coming in for you, Ron, so I'll let you go ahead and answer those. And I just want to give a shout out to Gary Smith, who is the volunteer chair of our energy working group. NCIPL has a monthly volunteer networked energy working group on the third Wednesdays of each month. We get together for an hour on the phone and talk about how to support congregations to do energy savings analysis, which is our energy audit program that hopefully then helps folks walk towards renewable energy as well. So if you're newer to understanding how your building operates and all of the different elements that Ron was mentioning about having data for, that's what our energy working group is here for. So if anyone would like to join our energy working group or learn more about that, they can contact Sarah at programs@ncipl.org. But I'm going to turn it back to Ron to answer the questions that have come in.
Sure. The first question is about the accepted but not yet connected projects that are in the Duke Energy queue. And can you assume that these projects are on track to be connected in 2019? It's a good question. You just don't know until they're connected, because there could be a number of reasons that the projects don't actually go through. So you can apply for an interconnect and you can find out later that it's going to cost too much to connect to Duke's grid, and you would abandon the project at that point. Or they could all be, they could all go forward. So you just kind of don't know until you see a project drop off whether or not it's going to get built or not. And then there's a question about insurance against hurricanes. Yeah, these would, you know, they're just like any other asset. And so they would be insured. I will defer to vendors on the specifics of, you know, providers or what it costs to insure solar panels, but I'm sure it's not exorbitant. And do people need to submit one energy bill or a whole year's worth to get an accurate quote? The more bills you could submit, the better. Ultimately, what we would love to see, and I know that the vendors would love to see too, because we could actually size solar plus storage solutions to save people even more money. You know, at some point, Duke Energy is going to be providing you with data on your building in 15-minute increments, and so you could go and figure out what day, you know, what during a certain hour, how much energy you used. And if vendors had a hold of, you know, 365 days of your energy use, and, you know, you can correlate that with what the weather was that day, you can understand basically how a building operates and its needs, and how it would most benefit from a certain size system, and if it would benefit from storage. And then also you could look at your tariff options. So the more data you can provide, the better. But we're coming out of the gate with just one utility bill to make sure that we know what rate you're paying right now for electricity, and then making sure that we know for sure who your provider is. Do we have any other questions? I see some flashes here.
Yes. So the most recent question that came in is, how complex can projects be? They have about 7 buildings and 20 different energy bills from Duke.
Yeah. Yeah, they can be complex for sure. So in that case, you know, probably need to put up those buildings on Greenhound individually. Or, I mean, if that's the case, you know, we're trying to automate the process as much as possible, but there's going to be special circumstances like this come up, and we'd be happy to help work through it, you know, offline, off the platform, and figure out the best way to get proposals in. But barring that, you know, you could just put each building up as a project and get different proposals. Although that's, you know, you probably want a holistic solution, and I understand that. But the platform right now is not capable of doing like seven facilities as one project. Any other questions, Sarah?
There's been a couple questions about pricing for multiple projects resulting in lower multiple projects resulting in lower pricing, which folks on our webinar are also answering, which is great. But yeah, so the question is, are project costs likely to be lower if many churches sign on to the same RFP at once? If many denominations are exploring solar together?
Yeah, I'm going to try to open up the chat box here and see. I know that there were a couple of solution providers on that I think would echo this, but the bigger the project, the better pricing you get, or the bigger the volume. So if you aggregate, if you go together as several congregations and try to get proposals to do all those projects, yeah, you'd get better pricing.
Yeah, and I can speak to that briefly too. Thank you so much, Stu Miller, for answering that. We have a couple of the installers on the webinar, and Stu Miller is with Yes Solar and has worked with a number of our congregations. in our network to install solar, which is great. And then I know someone is on from Southern Energy Management, SEM, as well. And a couple of years ago, NCIPL partnered with Yes Solar and Southern Energy Management to develop exactly what the question is addressing, is to try to create collective purchasing opportunities so that the price could come down, because obviously the installers, it's like anything, buying in bulk is always a good way to go. And so as you're thinking about your own congregational networks, for those of you that are, part of for example, the United Methodist Conference or the North Carolina Episcopal Diocese or the UCC Southern Conference, a real goal that we would love to see is that the denominations work together and develop some goals, to address climate change. And the way to do it, as an example, is the Episcopal Church of the United States has made a pledge that they would like to see all of their congregations be using clean, renewable energy by 2024. So what does that mean for the marketplace? That would be huge if we could organize in that way. And so definitely be in touch with us if that's something that you'd like to explore further about how to connect, or congregations just in your local community. Collective buying power is really a great way to move forward. And this would also really help to use the Greenhound platform so we could get as many projects into the system as possible. That's really our goal for today in launching this platform, is that we can make this go smoother, faster, connect the dots, and provide the vendors with the much needed projects that they want to help us install.
That's great. And I've got a question here about the church should respond to proposals within 7 days. What happens after 7 days? We're just trying to be respectful to the solutions providers too, and trying to get them answers quickly. I imagine that they'd still be okay with folks reaching out to them after the 7 days, but the cadence that we kind of foresee is that, if you all have decision makers at your congregation and you have, let's just call it a board, making decisions, and you have a board meeting coming up, and you've been talking about solar for a while, plan that board meeting around when you're going to put a project up on Greenhound. And so you could, 2 weeks before that, you could put your project up. A week before that meeting, you could have your proposals. Everyone can review those proposals, and then you can go into that meeting, talk about the proposals, hopefully make a decision, and then get back to the vendors. But there's no hard and fast rule like, your project just goes away and vanishes after 7 days. We're just trying to be expeditious with getting projects built. And does combining churches in the proposal affect the amount of the rebates? Since it's a per meter, I do not believe that it would affect the rebates. So you could get up to $75K for each of those, depending on the project size. Do we have any other questions, Sarah? It seems like a good spot to wrap it up. Susanna, if you want to take it back over. And I want to thank you all for attending. It's been a pleasure to introduce you all to Greenhound, and we look forward to working with you soon.
Yes, thank you so much, Ron. This is really exciting. I really hope that the call to action for everyone is to go back to your communities and say, it is 2019, almost 2020. At the very, very least, let's be sure that we even know if solar is appropriate for our facility, because we should all be able to answer that question. And I'm going to turn it over to Sarah. And again, we are here to serve you. That is our work. So feel free to reach out to any of us at any time, and we can walk you through this, and we'll be sending this information out, and we hope that you'll share it. Sarah and myself are also available to come and speak to your board of trustees or give a presentation at your congregation at any time as well. So we can get that scheduled if you have any additional questions or they have additional questions. And Ron is also available. We'd love to do this again. So I'm going to turn it over to Sarah to close us out. Hi,
everyone. I hope you can hear me. I've had a little bit of internet troubles. But I am going to close us with a prayer, and thank you again for being here. I look forward to working with you soon. So let us pray. We pray for people living with the effects of climate change, for the sake of those facing rising temperatures, drought, and water shortages, for the sake of those facing unpredictable weather, disrupted seasons, and failed crops, for the sake of those facing flooding, land loss, and the salination of vital water supplies, for the sake of all those who fear the changing climate, for the sake of the poor, the vulnerable, the refugee, for the sake of us all, Creator God, Holy Mystery, in your mercy, recreate our hearts that we might partner with you to renew this damaged world. In your name we pray, amen.
Amen. Blessings to everyone. I hope you have a wonderful day. At least where I am in North Carolina, it's a gorgeous day. So be sure to get outside and enjoy it, and we'll be in touch soon. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you all.